Thank you. I'm Terry Newby, and I'm a member of the Multicultural Advisory Committee, which works with the police department.
And I'm Etienne Javi. I'm a member of the MAC as well.
Thank you. So we thought it would be important for us to sort of bring the members of the council up to speed on what MAC has been doing. For those of you, I think most of you know, but for those who don't, the MAC was founded in 2020 as an opportunity to build relations between the members of the community, particularly the multicultural members, people of color, and really to build relationships with the police department. So the city council was instrumental in forming that. That was in 2020. Since then, MAC has been working with the police department to do a number of what we think are really important and influential initiatives. First, MAC members have been involved in selection of potential police candidates, not necessarily selection, but the interview process, being involved in the interview process with potential police candidates to make certain that they understand the complexities and the nuances of working in a community like ours that is a very diverse racial and ethnic background. And so MAC has been working with the police department on some of those hiring decisions. We have also, with the police department, made presentations to high school students at the Roseville area high school to make them aware of what MAC is and what it does, and to give them opportunities to volunteer with the committee and show leadership. And with that, we've had some great cooperation from several teachers and administrators at Roseville High School, including Greg Euland, who has been very, very cooperative with us and made his students and his classes available to a presentation with the MAC. And that was, for those who were there, it was, if you haven't been in a high school in a while, talking about policing, it was a very interesting afternoon, and we learned some things from them, and it was good. But I really feel that we made a really good impression, and it was a good way for us to reach out to the youth of Roseville. Another thing that we've done working with the police department is the traffic stop initiatives. And for those of you who don't know, the Ramsey County PD, John Choi, the St. Paul Police police chief, and the Roseville Police Department made executive decision to no longer rely on low-level, non-public safety-related equipment violations for stops. So expired tabs, license plate lights being out, tail light, that sort of thing. The type of what I describe as non-public safety-related low-level equipment violations, because the data indicates that those types of stops disproportionately affect people of color and low-income people. And the data also show that when you pull people over for those things, you almost never get evidence of an existing crime or a larger crime. So basically, police resources are being used to pull over people of color and low-income people with almost really never any, for lack of a better term, fruit, if you know what I mean. They don't actually yield other crimes. And so the data spoke for themselves, and with the cooperation of John Choi and the St. Paul Police Department and Roseville, which really led the way, the department is no longer going to make those low-level, non-public safety equipment-related stops. Now, they're still going to pull people over, but instead of ticketing, they're going to make them aware of resources where they can get those things fixed. You should get your tabs replaced. Here's where you can get your license plate bulb fixed. Here's the things you can do to fix that instead of simply pulling people over, which leads to some unpleasant encounters both for law enforcement and for citizens over something that typically isn't a public safety violation. So those are the things that I think we've been up to. Etienne, please let me know if I forgot something.
I would like to add a little bit of context to the last aspect that we just talked about, which is the concept of poverty. It's not a crime to be poor, and we have been working with the police department to say if people don't have enough money to fix the broken tail light, and we give them ticket, a fine, are we not adding more to the poverty that started the whole cycle in the first place? And as a result of that, the police department in coordination with Ramsey County has taken the action that Terry was talking about earlier. And I believe there was some more concrete data when it came to the impact of that policy since it was enacted. I think we talked about maybe 1,800 stops not being made since that policy was enacted. To me, that is a really big number. That is 1,800 people who otherwise would have been pulled over, and interaction between police and community, bad thing could have happened. But the even nicer thing about this thing is, if you don't want to pull over people and you try to get them to know, however, that the equipment is not functional, how do you do it? And I was so pleasantly surprised that the police officers can, when they run a plate, an email or a mail can be sent to the person's home with actual number to call, so that there's no interaction between police officers and community. And that's just a wonderful, wonderful thing that I'm so happy that you guys are doing. It feels good. So just wanted to add that. One other thing that we as MEC have been involved in is the hiring of the social worker embedded in the police department. We are proud that Roseville is taking those steps to make policing not about crime, but also about poverty. How do we solve the issue? How do we face poverty?
Excellent. I think that wonderful point. Thank you. I'd forgotten about the data, the numbers.
Thank you for that update. Are there any questions or feedback from the council to the members of the MAC who are with us this evening? Councilmember Strong.
Thank you, and thank you for the update on the partnership with Lights On. That's something that I came to Corey with in the police department in 2019 after going to a workshop with the members who started that, and so excited about it, and it's nice to see that it's in full place because it's had great results, and I actually had seen it win an award elsewhere from the Minnesota Council on Nonprofits for Impact, and so I think it's really great that we are participating in this influential program, and we can be models as well to other places, so I really appreciate that. I know when I've had previous conversations with ATN specifically, but about fear around the police, it really I'm glad to hear that reduction in crime in those police interactions. It's hard for me to imagine at times, or not anymore, but in the past, to understand what it's like to interact unnecessarily with the police. And so between being a person of color and someone who maybe is poor, it's really important to be reminded that that can be a really scary situation, and that it takes a level of harm out of the equation that just doesn't need to be there. I was curious, I feel like I have two questions. How many members are currently on the MAC? And then kind of, I don't know if I ever feel strongly about what our relationship is between what you do and what we do. Our other commissioners are appointed by us, and that's not, and yet we love to know about your information and what you're doing, but we don't have a lot of oversight or impact or decision-making. And so I don't know if there's a formal relationship between us, but I think it would be interesting to consider as we move forward.
Sure. Well, I can tackle those. Right now we have, I believe it's approximately 20 listed members of the MAC. Obviously, we have different levels of participation. There are some who drop off, there's some who join, but right now, as of my email list my email membership list has 20 members. And so we are actively recruiting. We've gotten a few more members from the community. A couple of pastors from the faith communities in Roseville who've expressed an interest in joining, and so we welcome them. There's also been some interest from some college students at the U of M. One of them was ultimately unable to join because of her schedule. Apparently, they're expected to go to school. And so she was unable to join because of her schedule, but she did tell me that when her school schedule gets straightened out next year, she really does want to become a member. And there are other students of color at the U of M who are also very interested in joining. So there's a pipeline there. So right now it's 20. Hopefully we get more because there's some who participate more than others. As far as the relationship with the city council, I think you're right. I don't know if there's a formal reporting relationship. I certainly would be happy to do that because I think it's important. This is, as I tell the members of the committee, this is a wonderful opportunity. It's a leadership opportunity, not just for us, but for Roseville, to show the world what effective community-based policing looks like. And, you know, when I did my research, there are a lot of places that don't have this. And there are a lot of places that, frankly, don't want it. And so for us to have it and want it and make it work with that partnership with the police department, I think it's important. So I would very much welcome a whatever type of formal relationship the council would consider, because I view this as an opportunity for the council to promote MAC, which in effect promotes Roseville, and I think it aligns with the community's values.
And if I may add one line to it, it is with this important data showing the improvement, the numbers, is there any way the city or the city council could help get the word out? Because we as MAC can be doing some of this work with the police department, but if we don't have the capacity of getting the words out, how does the community know that this work is being done and the impact is having on the day-to-day activity of people? So that would be something that if we can get some help from the council, we'll appreciate it.
I think that's probably something we can look at, you know, a newsletter article or something like that as a follow-up, and, you know, maybe just kind of a scheduled periodic update from the MAC on whatever is going on at that particular time or since the last update. And then, you know, in terms of the data, we certainly have our pretty robust data portal on the police department's website also, that if that data isn't there, if it is there, we can highlight it better, or if it isn't there, we can add it. But I think those are excellent points about that communication piece. I saw Councilmember Graff.
Well, just to piggyback on that, also, even you being here tonight, I mean, I know we don't have a huge following, but people do. I'm always surprised at how many people do watch the council meetings, so this is good to get this information out. Because I'd heard a little bit about what you're talking about, but even on the council, I hadn't heard as many details as you're talking about right now, so this is really helpful, especially reaching out to the high schools. I think that's crucial to get some input from the youth. They have a different life experience than someone my age, say, so I think that's really helpful for us. I wanted to also say, I think your points about poverty are so important, because that is a cycle that can just spiral down when you end up with, you know, maybe we don't think a traffic ticket is the end of the world, but someone who's already working 2 jobs and has a family of 4 and their spouse is working, it could be the thing that tips them down to losing their car or whatever it is. So I think that's really important work. I want to thank you and the police department for that.
The thing I wanted to add in relation to that is the other aspect of that is oftentimes, you know, those very minor equipment violations can be sort of an entry into the criminal justice system for someone too, especially if they're not able to pay their fine. Then now they've got a warrant out, and next time they're you know, seen by officers, the license is checked, it says there's a warrant, they get pulled over, and as we unfortunately know, that those types of situations can lead to adverse consequences as well that nobody wants to happen either. And so the less that we can sort of bring people into a system that they really don't need to be in, you know, I think that program is exactly the benefit in terms of that aspect as well. So definitely wanted to make sure that folks in the public are aware of that it's, you know, there's the financial aspect, but there's also that sort of potential for somebody to just sort of get into a cycle of, you know, not being able to pay a fine, having a warrant out, maybe evading or not being able to make a court appearance. Now there's another warrant out, or there's an enhanced warrant, or whatever. It becomes very, very, you know, bad for somebody very quickly, and that can just have so many, you know, adverse consequences for individuals that began this whole thing with, you know, a broken tail light or a missing license plate light or an expired tab or something like that, you know. So exactly. Councilmember Schor.
Yes, I'd also like to echo what Councilmember Graff said, but I also wanted to add, I really appreciate you working on some positive solutions for this. I mean, so many times we look at data and issues and yet you're working on some ideas and solutions to make things better, and I can really appreciate that. And working with the police department so closely, I can't imagine a better place to try to improve things for our community. So thank you so much for all the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Rowe, to your point, obviously, I mean, it would be a huge tragedy to have someone involved in the criminal justice system because their license plate light was out. It just makes no sense for anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. The other thing I was just going to mention in terms of a formal relationship with the council, I'm not sure that the committee necessarily wants to get to a point of being like a commission as actually both of you have been on city commissions. So you know the interview process and the council deliberation over appointments. And I think that, it was intentional, I believe, to set this committee up without a lot of that, for lack of a better word, baggage, because people can engage as they're able to. There's not this formal process and expectation of strict attendance rules, or you get tossed off, or things like that. So I think that arrangement seems to make a lot of sense. And it
I
seems to
agree.
work very
I
well.
agree.
So I
Having
would
been on a
encourage, and
commission-
I'm not saying anybody was suggesting that, but I definitely think the connection in terms of communication and reporting is beneficial, and we should work to continue that and make sure it's a pretty routine thing.
Right. Having been on a commission, I like, for this, what we're trying to do here, I believe the informal format works best. I was thinking more along reporting or maybe regular report outs in terms of the relationship, but I agree, I don't think that we need to be at the formal level of a commission.
And I think I was thinking more of some of our work with some of the other commissions where we have asked them to kind of have goals and things like that, so we are working and we look to them, at least I look to the other commissions and look to them for giving us guidance. And so I would love to be able to take this information and go, okay, well, now we know this. And obviously we're here and we're smart and we can do that on our own, but it would be really nice in some way to formalize a relationship in that we have this thing that is unique. And so maybe it just stays within the police department. But I just thought if there was an opportunity to talk more about it and make sure that it's seen as something that kind of helps guide the work of what we do. We don't need to manage how many meetings you attend, and we don't need to do all that. But I think just formalizing that consultancy, that understanding that you can come to us, that you can report out to us, and that we seek and respect what you bring to us. So.
Well, and for that matter, if there are policy recommendations that aren't maybe directly advising the police department itself, but maybe more to something that comes to the council level of consideration on a policy basis, absolutely, if the MAC wants to bring something forward, make a suggestion for something we should be taking a look at, maybe adopting as a policy, I think that's something we're looking for too, so definitely.
Wonderful.
All right.
I guess the question for us today is what are the ways, I think the mayor, you mentioned the city newsletter. What are the ways this work can be promoted to the community? I think that would be the big ask from us today. Right. Not that we necessarily need an answer today, but something that if you can help us get the word.
Sure. I think between our communication staff, our police department staff, and members of the committee itself, we've got a lot of good minds here we can put together towards coming up with some ways to communicate. The reason I mentioned the newsletter is that still, at least as of our last survey, which goes back a few years now, that's one of the primary ways people in the community seem to get their information. So we don't want to miss out on that opportunity, but certainly if there's other ways to make those connections with folks in the community as well. I like the idea of visiting the high school, visiting classes and things like that the committee's already doing. So, where there are those opportunities out there to do that.
Right. And I think there's a lot of different ways we can, we've got plenty of people here who are good at the communications and in opening up those lines. So I think that's something we can continue to work on. But I do think regular reporting in some way, or at least regular updates, where you guys know what we're doing and we can seek input from you, I think that would be beneficial. So thank you for raising that.
And just for the benefit of the folks who are watching the meeting, either live or later on, there is information in the council packet this evening with some of the details that were talked about in your presentation as well. So folks can get to that from our packet portal, as it were, as well. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And pass along our thanks to everybody else on the committee as well.
Thank you.